All right. So what's up, fellas? So in in light of Breonna Taylor's death and the indictments and lack thereof against officers involved, I thought it was critical to discuss the importance of not only voting, but understanding the process as well as our rights and responsibilities as citizens to actually ensure that we have the elected officials that have our best interests at heart, and more importantly, in policy. So today I got with me my friend, one of my board members, for some bigger things to come. And this is Jesse Armand. Did I pronounce your middle name right?
Armand.
Armand, okay. Okay. Jesse Armand Harris, Dr. Jesse Armand Harris. He has over 10 years of increasingly responsible leadership and public administration management experience through various roles in government and nonprofit sectors. Most of the time was in management of elections, administrations, and systems and legislative management in both city and county government. His public service career it's been a stepping stone, where he has made difference in policy, some organizational effectiveness, and he holds both a master and doctorate degrees in public administration. And he currently serves as the Chief Deputy Registrar of Voter Elections Director for Gwinnett County.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I kind of rattled that off. I'm trying to.
You're good.
What's up, my friend? What's happening, man?
How are you? I'm good.
Man, I'm doing awesome. Thank you for being here with me. And
I appreciate the honor.
I know what's going on. So my main stat for the night is over trying to research. I found that Black voter turnout was down 7% from 66% in 2012 to 59.6% in 2016. Okay. And it actually the turnout dropped the most in battleground states such as Ohio, Florida, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Am I correct in that?
You are correct. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
We saw a decrease in the Black turnout vote. Yes, absolutely.
So first of all, I want people to know what is really the importance of voting in not only federal elections, but the local elections as well.
The importance of voting, especially locally, is because that representation directly affects you. It affects trash pickup. It impacts local policy that sort of states how you can interact in public in your city, how you can, where your taxes go and how those taxes pay police chiefs and how they pay sanitary workers. Those local roles are very important because outside of the federal policies, although you have the federal policies that give you the large sums of money, so when you participate in the census, it's important for you to participate in that census because that's where the federal money is funneled down from. So when you are participating at the federal level, it trickles down to the local level because those funds impact how your city receives them, first of all, and then how that city official, how they utilize those resources.
So give me some examples when you say, like you mentioned trash pickup and all those types of things. What are some elections that people really, really don't look out for that they really, really need to be looking out for on the local levels? What are the ones that make the most difference on the local level?
Right. So in addition to being responsive to presidential elections, so like that turnout that we saw for the African American vote when Obama was running for office.
Right.
We need that same
stats.
The 2012 stats, absolutely. Yeah. We need that participation at the local level, because that is your mayors, your city councilmen, police chief, your sheriff, your county elected officials. You need to be a part of that, because you need to make sure you have representation that resembles what your voice is.
Right.
And when you don't show up to the polls, then the voice and the representation and the perspective of others prevail over what you want. And if you don't show up to the polls on election day for a small municipal election, then your voice is not heard. And then ultimately you can't say anything when things don't go your way. The other thing about the local levels, like I said, sheriff, we kind of miss those. Those are policies. Like if you want to end cash bail, if you want to end the different discriminatory policies at the local level, then you need to participate in those. You also need to mobilize your community as well as become a elected official yourself. I mean, something that's running for school board, all of our children are in one of the public school systems. And if we're not represented on that board, then how can we turn around and feel empowered to be the advocate for our students?
Now, when you say us run for school board, because I'm not gonna lie, I get interested in stuff like that real quick. But what would be the process for people who are who want to do things like that, who really want to get involved as far as mobilizing? I know mobilizing at first, that's the first thing, mobilizing at their own capacity, should I say. How could we start mobilizing at our own capacity? And then I want you to kind of go into how we can start thinking about getting into those elected places ourselves.
Okay. I would definitely start with, let's say, school board. One of the things is to participate, showing up, being participants in PTA, being advocates and showing up at school meetings, especially when the school board is having meetings about how tax dollars are being spent. When even most recently, when school boards and superintendents met to sort of put the phases back into place of how students return to school. Those are primary meetings that you need to participate in, and you need to be a face in the community. It's one thing to speak, but then it's another thing to actually be present. And so what you need to do is be present at those meetings, because I think it's shameful for someone to put their name on the ballot and have never looked at a board meeting agenda or participated in the brainstorming of a board policy or been a community participant in those sort of dealings. And so even when it comes to city council, being involved in your neighborhood organizations, something like Next Door, or participating in a backpack giveaway. These little stepping stones can definitely promote you to a place of popularity within your community where you have face and name recognition, to where you can campaign easily, where you can have your ear to the ground and be responsive to the needs of the community. And kind of, when you want to start something, when you want to start an organization, or when you want to start a nonprofit, it's about politicking and getting those people to corral and think like you and want the same things that you do.
Yeah. Okay. So what should we do about like suppression? What should we do about suppression? The reason why I ask is because I know nowadays people are really, really worried about being harassed at voter polls. I really wanted to address that in this time. And people are, how do we advocate for it?
Mm-hmm.
How do we go about doing that?
Okay. And
I
that's
hope it's not redundant.
No, it's not redundant. It's not redundant. And I'll say that to say, I've been pretty much on all spectrums of election. I've been a worker in elections where I have to manually, physically count ballots. I've been a manager in elections where I oversaw those processes and certification of elections. And I've also been a candidate for public office. And so I have a well-rounded sort of in and out of the election process. I know that we hear a lot about elections are rigged and my vote doesn't count. And
Yeah, I was going to get you there too. So yeah.
One vote doesn't make a difference. In my current role, I'm responsible for 3 subdivisions within the Department of Elections, which is absentee by mail, advanced in-person voting, which runs about 3 weeks in the state of Georgia from October 12th to October 30th, and also voter registration, data entry. So when you go online, when you go to driver services and you opt in to register to vote, my division is responsible for making sure that data entry is sound. And
you hear this, people? Do you hear this, people? I hope y'all are hearing what he's saying, especially when it comes to the validity of mail-in votes and everything else is what they're trying to say. I have a brother that's talking to me right now that's saying that you need to take it seriously because it's going to be sound when it comes through, correct?
Right,
it's going to be counted as it should, correct?
It's going to be counted, yes.
Thank you.
And so,
y'all, just making sure y'all heard that.
It's going to be counted. And I've been doing this for quite some time. I started in elections in about 2004, 2005 in the county of Los Angeles, and then further progressed my profession with the city of Long Beach, serving as deputy city clerk over elections and legislative management. And so, and then moving into Georgia and having that year's experience, I think I'm strategically placed.
Right, I think so too.
Yeah, divinely placed. Yeah, my dissertation was actually in the importance of voting and participating at the local level. I know we celebrate and have pomp and circumstance when it's time to, vote for president. But we forget about like the very important race that we just had that was vacated by the death of the late John Lewis. Mm-hmm. That is the election that's happening September 29th. That's very important for those residents in the county of Fulton and DeKalb.
You hear that, Fulton County, DeKalb County? Y'all need y'all listen to the brother. Listen, September 29th, we replacing John Lewis, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, to fill that unexpired term. And it's very important that we show up in large number because you don't want to lose that momentum that he set. And a lot of the candidates, what we need to also do is research. We need to read about the candidates. We need to take a passion or desire, because what you want to do is make sure that you're just not blindly selecting folk. I know that in LA County, we provide a very thorough sample ballot booklet that has candidate statements and narratives about what the candidate is and their background and their education and what they want to do and their key points. But when we get to the ballot booth, or we're sitting in the comfort of our own homes, all we have is a ballot designation, which is a title underneath their name. So we really don't know much about them unless we research, such as district attorney. These are elected officials that we need to properly and smartly elect, because you may be a law-abiding citizen, but you may have that one cousin who doesn't always do the right thing at the right time, but you do not want them to experience an unjust criminal justice system, if that makes sense. And so you want to be able to make sure that the elected officials are doing their job. And the only way to hold them accountable is if you vote for them.
Right. So let's before I get into more of the conversation, sorry.
But you did want to talk about, you did want to briefly mention voter suppression. So I am a elections director that have integrity. I mean, I go through the extreme to make sure a ballot is counted. Even when we get a ballot that has been torn in half and the top portion of it is gone, and I don't know what precinct this ballot goes to, I have a tracking system that tells me a small number at the ballot that tells me that ballot type. And I'm able to actually pull that ballot and duplicate it, regardless of what the candidate is. It could, just for the past primary, it could have been for a Democratic nominee, or it could have been for a Republican nominee, regardless of my belief.
Right.
Make sure that that vote counts, because it is my duty to make sure that that vote is counted. What you as a citizen can do is contact your local county elections officials and advocate for yourself. Hey, I submitted my absentee ballot application. Where's my ballot? You want to make sure that your signature is on file, that your actual signature is on file, so that we can verify that it is you. The signature is the only thing that we have that can verify you. Outside of, if you come in person, that's a different story, but I cannot tell who this ballot belongs to. And we want to minimize any fraudulent activity when it comes to voting, because that is real. Just recently, I know that the Secretary of State had released an announcement about that a lot of deceased individuals cast ballots this past primary. And so you want to be able to make sure that that signature matches. And a lot of people registered to vote in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. And over time, their signature has changed, or they became disabled and unable to sign. And so you want to make sure that's updated. We even accept check marks as long as it's witnessed by someone else. But if we don't have that most current information, then there's no way that we can verify that ballot and validate it. So what you need to do is just contact us, make sure that you're on your game plan. Yeah, you're on your P's and Q's, that you have checked all your ends to make sure that your ballot is counted.
Okay. So first I wanna kind of, just give them some information as far as, what's a primary, just that basic information. So just kind of, civics 101 a little bit, I guess.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we can understand exactly, what we're dealing with when it comes to election, different elections and things like that.
Absolutely. And I'll speak from the context of Georgia, since that's where we are.
Okay.
Primaries and in all around the terminology is the same, but for Georgia, primaries are where you are nominating a person out of a pool of a lot of candidates. So if you have 19 people running for the same office, then that's dwindled down to the 2 highest vote getters. And then you have what we call a runoff, where that is even dwindled down further to see who wins out of those 2. So after you have the runoff, then you advance to what we call the general, which is coming up November 3rd. That election is where you have the top 2 candidates per political party. So for presidential, you have Donald Trump, and then you have Biden and Harris. For sheriff, you might have a Republican candidate and a Democratic candidate. And it's very important, but they're all on the same ballot. So at primaries, you will receive your party preference. Georgia, we don't register by party. In other states, such as California, you do. But here, we don't. So you have to select your ballot at the primary. And if you don't, that's actually grounds to reject your application.
Wow.
Right. So you have to declare a party.
I'm sure people don't know that.
You have to declare a party in order to even vote in a primary in the state of Georgia. And then for November, everyone is on the same ballot. Yeah. And then also you have to, before you even get the ballot, your county registrar's office has the sample ballot online. The Secretary of State has the sample ballot online. You want to make sure you get that. For instance, for the state of Georgia, Gwinnett County, it's a 2-page ballot, double-sided.
Okay.
It's a very, very long ballot. So you want to make sure before you get to the polls that you sort of print that sample ballot out, review it, sort of bubble in your responses and selections, and then bring that to the poll so that your time at the poll is not spent reviewing the ballot for the first time. Because there are a lot of candidates. There are also a lot of transit referendums and a lot of proper constitutional propositions for changes. There's about 3 for the state of Georgia. So you want to make sure that you look at those, because you never know how it can impact you as a resident of your state.
And just mention again, if you don't mind, the different ways that we can vote, just to make sure, just to make sure that everybody knows.
Right. So since this is being presented to a platform of people internationally, we want to advise people to check the websites for their local county registrar, or even their municipality, because your municipality can be holding a special election in addition to the county. And the county is responsible for presenting the ballot with your federal, state, senate, sort of those contests. But your city is responsible for holding those mayor and city council races. So you want to make sure that you participate in every election that you're eligible for on November 3rd. There are a lot of concurrent elections on November 3rd. So you want to make sure that you are set up to participate in those. So how you can vote is request an absentee ballot by mail. That will be sent to you by mail, and you would need to either return it by mail or look at other options the county's providing to return that. You also want to be sure that you can return it at a polling location on election day. The state of Georgia does not allow that.
Oh, so the state, you can't return it in Georgia. Say that again, because
So yeah, so in the state of Georgia, you have to submit your absentee ballot to the county registrar's office before the close of polls. If you submit it to a polling location, it will not get to us by the close of polls. Therefore, when that ballot comes back to us, although you think that you surrendered it or turned it in to be counted, it will not be counted, because by law, outside of a postmark, because one of the federal judges actually did extend that deposition. But if we don't receive it in our office by 7 o'clock, then it will be rejected. And so you want to make sure that you took the time to request the ballot. You took the time to research, review, and vote the ballot. You want to make sure that it's properly turned in by the articles of law. Another way that you can vote is early voting, or what we call in-person advance voting. That is, you can go to any location that's open on advance in person, but on election day, you have to go to your assigned precinct. If you don't, then you will have to vote provisionally. Now, provisional ballots get bad rap.
Okay. You are already about to get there, but go ahead.
Right.
Go ahead.
So provisional,
you beat me to my punch a lot, but it's all good.
Right.
Go ahead.
Right. Provisional ballots get bad rap, but it's actually a good mechanism to ensure the integrity of the vote and the voter. And so when a provisional ballot is cast, my team is doing research through the voter registration database to make sure that you are you, and that if you voted out of your precinct, we will still count your ballot. But
now, before you go in on provisional ballot, explain to us
what a provisional,
what it is.
Right.
Before, yeah.
Right. So provisional ballot is a ballot that is quarantined, I should say, from the ballots that if someone comes in with their ID and their identification is accurate, and it is presumed accurate, then what we do is allow them to go to the voting equipment, print their ballot, and cast their ballot.
Okay.
And then those are automatically uploaded to a memory card on our scanner, which is then tabulated when it comes back to our office on election night. A provisional ballot is quarantined. So you still get the vote the same way everyone else did, but your printed ballot is not scanned. It's placed into a secret envelope with your information on it. And then once that ballot is returned to us, we do research. And so a provisional ballot is saying that we can't really determine that you are who you say you are, or an absentee ballot may have been issued to you, but we don't know if you voted it or not. So provisional is our kind of mechanism, our method in a way to protect the voter from voting twice, and also making
sure that his vote is actually counted.
Right, managing any fraud. And so let's say you rushing to get to a polling location and you just see a flag and, hey, I got to get in line. I have to get in here. There's no line. Let me get in here and just vote. That would then be a provisional ballot, because your precinct is around the corner from your house, but you so happen just to get to your county line and see that you won't make it to your home in time. What we do is we research and we verify your precinct. Now, because your precincts are drawn lines, that say I can vote for this person or I can vote for this issue.
Correct.
But another precinct may not have those
Issues on the ballot.
contests.
Right.
Correct. So we will give you partial credit. So we will actually take your ballot, and once we verify it was you, we will then duplicate or remake your ballot on a blank ballot. But we will only give you credit for what you voted for that would also transfer to your precinct. So such as the federal and state offices, they're on everyone's ballot. So you will get credit for those. But if you voted for, let's say, Commissioner District 3, but you live in Commission District 2, that Commission District won't be filled on your ballot.
I have a question. So I guess I'm interviewing you, so yeah, I'm asking questions. But
yes, sir.
So I was hearing something about I guess the timing between when provisional ballots are counted and when the actual election is decided. And it was something about a lot of provisional ballots are actually counted after. They're not counted in time for when the election is already called, I guess. Can you explain how that works, I guess?
Right. So I'll dispel that myth. Provisional.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, right. So the election night results, that is ABM ballots that we have opened, processed, and scanned up until election day, and also any results from the precincts. So that's how you get those immediate results on election night. Provisional ballots are researched the day after the election up until completion, and those are periodically uploaded to the election night results that you have saw on November 3rd. The election is not certified until every ballot is counted.
Okay.
So provisional ballots, and then we're able to see the trend in the voting sets that say, well, the election can be called quite, quote unquote, because we only have about 500 provisional ballots, and there's no way 500 provisional ballots will swing this candidate's prevail over the winning candidate, right? So if you're already 12,000 votes ahead, and we only have 600 provisional ballots to count, the likelihood that you would lose to the losing candidate is very slim.
So check this out. So about the Supreme Court and their role in certifying elections. I was also listening to something else that said that, like in the case of 2000, when George Bush won the entire thing, from what I understand, the Supreme Court actually called it from like they called the election before. Explain that to me. If they have the power to call an election if need be. And the reason why I bring it up is because the rest in peace to Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Because of her death, we're looking at them actually threatening to fill the spot before the election, which would most likely swing it toward, if I'm not, was it a 6-3 now? Would it be 6-3 in that case? So, just that threat itself, so now we're about to start getting into some real conversation.
Correct.
So what is the Supreme Court's role and how can they actually affect it?
Right.
So give us the details of that.
Right. So I definitely understand the fear of a threat for the American people, but the Supreme Court only calls the election based on the electoral vote.
Okay.
And law just actually passed that actually not restricts, but it sort of confines the electoral vote. And that the electoral vote must go with the majority of the state.
Okay.
Previously,
so nobody, and that's a law right now. Now, does that necessarily benefit us as the people? I guess because it's it does benefit the majority of the people who voted for that.
Correct. So it does
Okay.
benefit us as a people because let's say the state of Georgia heavily goes blue, then then our designees responsible for the electoral vote cannot go red, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Like they
it makes
have in
sense
the
to me.
past.
I
Right.
just want to, I want to make sure that everybody else is clear on because we had a whole big thing about the electoral college and how that went. So, when did the law actually pass to make that happen? Was the law in effect in 2016 to make that happen to where they
Yeah.
actually have to? Okay.
It actually just passed this year. It
It
passed
just
a
passed
couple
this
of months
year.
ago. Yes, sir.
So that the majority, they have to vote. Absolutely, the electoral college actually has to vote with the majority in their state.
Correct.
Ah,
And
so
that's
let me
why
ask you a
it's
question. Oh,
go
but
ahead.
you said it does benefit. You said it does benefit the people
It
for the
benefits us,
most
and
part.
that's why it's so important that you show up to the polls and that you participate um, advance so that those results are provided in a time to where the electoral college vote um, is decided. Yeah.
So with I'm kind of in this section right, in this segment right now where I'm trying to deal with some issues when it comes to elections and what people kind of fear. So what is going on in Florida when it comes to their elections and the felons that were supposed to be, if I'm not mistaken, giving back their right? I hear that they're kind of they made it to where they actually have to pay fees. Everything has to be settled out. How does that really work out? How do these people even find out where to pay these fees to? Is that a voter suppression move in your kind of calculation of it? Tell us a little bit more about.
Okay. I definitely, in my opinion, I believe that is somewhat voter suppression. We have in every state, the law is different when it comes to felons. Um, Federally,
Mm-hmm.
it is a matter of fact that felons cannot participate in elections. All those rights are restricted, are revoked. But let's say, for example, in the state of Georgia, if you have not been convicted, so say you are
On
on trial
trial,
for a federal crime, and you
even
have
if you're
not been,
indicted, but
even
still
if
not.
you're indicted, if you
Okay.
have not been convicted and sentenced, you can still vote on election day. For the state of Florida, same way. Uh, but what people are failing to do is sort of do the research and also, like I said, pay the fine. And it's very simple. You pay the restitution to the courts. You can go through your probation, your county probation officer, or your federal agency in order to make that restitution, or even a payment towards it. Now, a payment towards it is partial restitution, and you're not
Right.
able to vote until there is full restitution paid.
Right.
But a lot
So
of people pending
mhm.
federal sentencing or some, and it's probably not going to even give them jail time. It might give them a fine. But if you're pending, you're still able to vote, and you're still able to vote. Yeah.
So everybody, please look for the resources that you have to find out. If you do have a felony or anything, find out what you can do. Find out where you need to pay your restitution. I guess how would we, would they? I guess find out through. I don't know, brothers. I don't know, brothers. I don't know where you at, and I don't know what you
Right,
got
right,
going.
right.
So
It would definitely be written. It would be written on your documentation. So when you are processed, there's documentation that comes with that. Might be a couple of pages, but within those pages and within those fine prints, there's citations of the law and articulation of the law that you need to be responsible for and knowing. Mm-hmm.
y'all hear that, right? Okay. So so check it. I gotta I wanna know, like, should normal democratic engagement um and posturing, so to speak, should it be expected to work right now in the kind of extreme situation that because I want to calm people down if we can. I'm trying to calm myself down.
Right.
And what I'm noticing, of course, with with everything being so tribal, we may get out of our own principles.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So should we expect, the kind of, I guess, should we expect this? You already answered that we should expect it to work, I guess. We should expect that our normalcy in election processes should work. I just need guarantee. I
You
need
do some guarantee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I need,
From my professional post, the democracy is working, definitely, but democracy has to be in action, and people must show out to vote. Let's take it for Georgia, in the 2012. If we show out in the levels that we did in 2012, we can make great things happen, especially for the very negative political climate that we're in. Since the statistics are there, Trump won by 211,000 some odd votes, but more than 550,000 blacks, and majority of them black men who were on the roster and eligible to vote, did not vote.
Do you think it was out of a comfortability type of thing? We thought that, oh no, it ain't no way. It ain't no way he can win. Do you think that it was mostly out of that?
I really can't say. I really don't know the rhyme or reason, but what I can say is that, for the lack of a better word, it's shameful that we did not trust the process, or that we made fun of or was picking at the process.
Yeah, I think we trusted. I think it's funny because at the same time, from 2012 to 2016, white men voted. It was like a percentage higher. You know what I mean? But they actually took it up a notch.
They did.
While we went down.
Correct.
From what the numbers say? First of all, we need to know, how do we interpret polls either way it goes? That was one of my questions I wanted to ask you. Mm-hmm. But I forgot as far as that 7% that we kind of lost. What are the trends that you're seeing in this election cycle? Are we trending back up, or what's going on? And secondly, how do we ourselves as lay citizens actually interpret these polls, so we know what we're looking at? Because I do think that I was into the polls and stuff last election, and I listened to a lot of Republican radio just to hear what right. I'm an article kind of person, so, and I feel like you got to know you have to know the other side. So and what I noticed is that the polls were they were off, according to like they were off, and I guess the margin of error and everything was like 4% or something. But I don't really can you explain it, how we should interpret the polls, even if you have some advice on more credible polls that we should be paying attention to, as opposed to, I know we shouldn't be doing Facebook polls,
Right. Well, I definitely trust the Pew, PEW poll. It oftentimes, if not all the time, provides actual statistics. And what they do is they take a very large sample of the population, and that margin of error makes it appear that the information is viable. When you have a very small sample size, you really can't convey that across the board. And so we have to really understand that the polls, they're basic cut and dry.
Measuring tools, maybe?
Yeah, they're basic cut and dry, and it's not a real measuring tool because sometimes they can be falsified because what you're relying on is someone's word. So they can leave a poll and then they can say, well, I voted for this person because they think that's what you want to hear. But all in all, they voted for someone else or didn't vote at all.
Right,
They
right.
voted for other issues in the contest. And so when you get the pre-poll and then when you get the election results, you're like, hey, this doesn't make sense. And so if you're going to participate in the poll, one thing is to be truthful about your responses. And if you're not going to participate in the poll, don't participate in it.
Yeah.
So what we need to definitely rely on is, like I say, the election results, because like I said, some of the polls, it's based on what someone said. But election night reports is based on what someone did.
Right.
So you want to be true to that. Other things such as voting that I think that we can segue into is that when you do vote, don't make mistakes of voting for two when you're supposed to vote for one, because now that vote will not count.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that? Go ahead, explain that for me.
Perfect. So if you get into the poll or your precinct and you have a contest where it says vote for one and you have sheriff and you vote for John Doe and you also bubble in Jane Doe, your vote doesn't count for that contest.
The entire vote is thrown out.
For that contest only, or for that race.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The rest of the ballot the rest of the ballot will still be applicable, or?
Yes, it will still be counted. You also don't want to do things such as bubble in your nominee for president and then bubble in the write-in and then write in Mickey Mouse, Jesus Christ, Godzilla. We see these things. So you don't want to do that because now that is considered an overvote. And overvotes are not counted. So you just missed your opportunity, and your candidate of choice just missed that one vote. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so brother, what are we looking at on this ballot? I want to know if you know, we don't have to get too political and partisan or whatever, but I really want to know from your perspective, what is the good and the bad on both sides of this ballot? Of course, you know, you speak general. I wanted them to know general election because, you know, we got a lot of people in different areas, but also when you get a chance, explain what's on the ballot in Georgia. Explain, you know, let us know what are we looking at.
Okay. Personal opinion. I think that from what I've witnessed and experienced from between primary and general is that I have seen a lot of youth involved in the electoral process. A lot of people who were born in the 80s and in the 90s and in 2000, they are contacting our office. They're wanting to know what's taking so long to get me registered to vote. What is it that I need to do in order to be eligible to vote for November? For the June primary in the state of Georgia, we saw record-breaking turnout when it came to those born between 1980 and in 2000. So we're seeing a lot of youth and young adults involved in the democratic process where I haven't seen in quite some time in my profession. We are also seeing that these social injustices around the nation is really mobilizing our younger population and generation to participate. And what we also need to know is that although you have to be 18 to vote, brothers, if you have children in your household who are 17 and a half or will be 17 by November 3rd, they can register today and they will be allowed to vote on November 3rd, as long as they are turning 18 on November 3rd or before.
On November, right.
Right. So, but you want to wait, you want to make sure that you don't wait to register them because a lot of states don't have same day voter registration, which I think is suppression within itself.
In itself, yeah.
Absolutely. And so Georgia's, go ahead.
So I guess, no, what is the, I guess, the registration cutoff and deadline for this specific election? Is it different in different states, or?
It's different in different states, and that's why I implore you to please go on your local county registrar's website to see what those are. For Georgia, it's October 5th, and we pretty much do about 30 days before. For California, they have a 15-day before election day registration deadline. And I believe it's about 10 to 15 states that actually have same day registration.
And you said Georgia's not in there, so y'all please look to see, see your registration cutoffs and everything, and check your state to see, what's going on with that. What are we looking at? I mean, as far as get into, I want you to get into what is your opinion on this election and the actual. Take a sip if you got to. But what is your actual opinion on who we're looking at on the ballot, man? Because I mean, I'm worried, bro. I'm worried. I'm like, I've never been worried this much about the outcome of what could happen. Just being a little bit and paying attention. And so it's what are we looking at when we elect one over the other? What are we looking at?
Right. I would say that I have some concerns too, because I really do not know. I really can't tell you, rhyme or reason, different or indifferent, how this election will go because of all of the different layers that we're experiencing. I mean, we're experiencing social injustice on every layer and level of government there is. We, as a people of color, feel personally attacked by the hands of government, and we don't know who to trust. And so that's why it's important that we show up and elect people on the ballot that represents us, both in our political agendas, people that look like us, people that think and move and breathe like us. We want to make sure that, and no racial bias within one or the other, but we're human, and we tend to, in most cases, we tend to respond naturally to the collective needs of who we identify with. And so it's very important that we continue to encourage people who have some political acumen and that demonstrates that they want to see change. We want to be able to encourage them to even qualify for office, and then encourage them and support them financially. Running for office is not cheap. I'll tell you that. Candidate filing fees can be anywhere between $2,000 to $5,000 on the local level, and so it's very important that you're supported, and that you kind of discourage any fraud and any negative dealings, because you don't want that to be tied to your name. This election, what we're looking at on the ballot, it's a little different from our previous presidential elections because we do not have a lot of different parties on the ballot. We have the Republican candidate, we have the Democratic candidate, and then we have a Libertarian candidate. So I know for the 2016 election, we had like Libertarian and Green Party and all these different other candidate pairs that we could mess around and just vote as well. I'm not gonna vote for him because we might go this way. I'm not gonna vote for her because I don't want a woman in office. So I'm just gonna circle in the Tea Party candidate. That doesn't help the cause because now you're just taking away a vote to a political candidate that could have actually made change and made America great. Yeah.
Well, brother, I appreciate you being on with me, man. And you got to do this more often, man. I want to have
Absolutely.
a panel discussion with you and some other people. Whenever, I'm trying to get this brother elected. So, I'm not going to put him in the position to really get political, but man, I appreciate you for everything you've been helping me do, man. And y'all gonna see a lot more of this brother either way it go, man. We got some big dealings in the works, man. I appreciate you once again, brother, and you have a wonderful evening and go
Appreciate
enjoy
you.
yourself, man. And I'll be getting back with you either way it go.
Certainly, I thank you for the opportunity and honor to have this discussion and start this dialogue. And I think it's something that we still have a whole month to go.
Now, what are we doing? Because what are we doing in this group? We're trying to hold a voter registration drive, people. We're trying to push the vote. So we're gonna put up some links. Can you give us a little bit of advice on what we're trying to do together as far as when it comes to this group and voting? Because I know you can explain it a lot better than me. Right. I'll do it, but just explain it.
So from this group, since we have members all across the United States, what we want to do is give very general web links so that you can go to it that will actually connect you to your county's registrar link. So you have rockthevote.org. You also have registertovote.gov. These are two links that will navigate you to your local county registrar's office. And from there, you can check your registration status or even register to vote. You can also request a sample ballot. You can request an absentee ballot. You can learn where your early voting locations are. And you can also learn your election day polling location and what time that opens and closes. Yeah, so I definitely would recommend that you participate in the advance voting because those lines will definitely be long on November 3rd.
And since I know you'll be helping me, I'm just gonna give you permission to go ahead and just post whatever you need to post, and as far as the voting and getting people invited. And what I want you guys to do, if y'all don't mind, if y'all can take these links, get them and share them outside of this circle,
right?
Because you and your counties can get the specific links to what you've researched on how to get your information straight in your counties and in your areas. You can send that link to people in your area and get everybody in your area dealt with. So we're gonna do it on a big scale, but everybody got to do a small part. So if we can just do that, I'm pretty sure we can get a lot more to vote out. Like we said, voters, especially Black voter turnout was down 7%. From 2012 to 2016. That could have accounted for a lot of stuff that's going on right now.
Right.
Okay. So we're trying to get that vote back up to 7 and push it past that if we can. We got a lot of men in this group, a lot of leaders. So if every person in this group can just share the link to 5 people and then encourage them to share it to 5 people, we got a whole thing going, baby. So let's do that if we can. Dr. Jesse Armand Harris, I appreciate you again for coming to sit down with me, man. And as a matter of fact, I'll talk to you in a few minutes, bro.
All right, I appreciate it.
All right, y'all have a good time, fellas. Yo, this game on tonight, my Jaguars playing, so I got to go.
All right, bros.
All right.
Rock the vote.